June is the month for men's mental health. So, what better than two guys talking about this? My name's Kunal, and a friend of mine, Prajwal, is sitting with me, and we're going to talk about psychology, therapy, and mental health in general. So, Prajwal, I wanted to know one thing. The importance of mental health is being brought about right now, and a lot of people say men should go to therapy or speak to a psychologist. As an Indian, who am little skeptical, if I ask the question, how does it benefit someone to talk to a psychologist, let's say if he's having issues at work or if his health is deteriorating, how is solving for the wrong problem going to help him? If my diet is shit, I don't need to talk about my feelings, right?
Of course,
Okay.
I agree.
So, where did the need for men going to therapists come from? Is it justified? Is it the right way, the wrong way, or does this need a little more elaboration?
So, firstly, anybody pursuing psychology as a career will tell you to go get therapy
Okay.
and perpetually spreading awareness about taking care of your mental health, yourself, your internal self, before looking externally or materially. You need to look at yourself internally.
Okay.
So, in a sense, to try and understand yourself better, if you take one therapy session or meet a psychiatrist, meet a psychologist, not psychiatrist, psychologist,
Okay.
to understand what you're going through, to get clarity in case you're confused, you can take a therapy session, there's nothing wrong with it. I absolutely would urge everybody who's even skeptical about it to give it a try.
Okay.
One therapy session is not gonna change your life. But what if it does?
Okay.
What if you understand something about yourself that doesn't come from the therapist, but from yourself? But simply because they are presenting a perspective to you that you have not been able to imagine before.
How would you handle the objection of people who say no psychologist or therapist diagnosis can be objective? For example, I go to a hospital and they diagnose me with malaria. And this is something that came directly from the reports.
Right.
Knowing that it's human tendency to misreport our feelings and our thoughts and not to be completely honest with ourselves, how can a psychologist or therapist ever make an objective diagnosis of a person? Because all the recommendations for what to do ideally come from self reporting by the patient. Can the recommended solution ever be trustworthy?
See, psychologists are also people.
Mhm.
You meet somebody who's a psychologist at the age of 25. You meet the same person who's then a psychologist at the age of 45. You will see a difference in how they handle you and how much money they charge.
Okay.
Because उनका भी पेट भरना है. But they are not going to be a person who's simply charging you money for no reason, right? Their career exists for a reason. They are there. They are there in order for you to receive some clarity.
Okay.
End of the day, it is about you, your internal individual self, right?
Okay.
Your heart and mind. You need to understand who you are as a person, and if therapy helps you get there, then great. But if after one session you feel like this is not helping me, this is not working out, who's asking you to continue?
Okay. So
I'm not urging you to take therapy. I'm urging you to get clarity in your life.
are the problems that someone approaches a therapist for mental, or are they more existential? Before you answer that, I'll give you an example, right?
Yeah.
I don't eat a nutritious meal, I don't exercise regularly, and as a consequence, my health deteriorates and my mood is off. Or I don't put in the necessary effort in my work, due to which I get overlooked for a promotion and I see my colleagues doing better and I feel envious. I see this more as an existential problem rather than as a psychological problem. Do you think going to the therapist can solve for something which is addressed via other means?
So suppose you're in a conversation with your parent or your friend And if you happen to have healthy relations with your friends and family who know how to call out your bullshit, they're showing you the mirror. They're letting you know this is the kind of person you are, this is what you did was wrong, this is what you need to work on, and what if they try to tell you ways of fixing yourself? If you stay healthy in your environment and if you feel healthy, at least by your surroundings, even if you're not working on yourself, you're halfway there.
Okay.
The remaining 50% is about whether you know, take the advice or you take up the recommendations, the remedies suggested to you by your friends and family. So when people, I know there's a stigma where people say, I can just talk to my friends or family, I don't need to go to therapy. It is because they are receiving that mental clarity
Okay.
by talking to, friends and family and getting the perspective.
Okay. Now, if we were really to put therapy and going to a doctor within the domain of medicine, when I go to a doctor, I expect him to give me a prescription for the disease I'm suffering from, right? Let's say I have malaria or I have fever, I get prescribed something,
Yeah.
I consume it, and after going through the recommendation of the correct doses or diagnosis, I'm healthy over again.
Yeah.
Why do we find certain people going to therapists over and over again? Isn't this betraying the fact that the job is not getting done and the problem is being exacerbated?
So there is a great answer to this. Firstly, you're trying to explain what is allopathy, right? It depends on the seriousness of the problem. If your arm is sprained, you get a different remedy. If your arm is broken, you get a different remedy. Similarly, homeopathy works where it is placebo. Your mind is capable of fixing things inside your body simply by thinking yourself into fixing, and there are practical examples, live examples of people who have done this. Sportsmen, there are a lot of sportsmen who have injured themselves and then use the power of their mind to heal their body.
Okay.
It is possible to heal your DNA also. Do you know there's gene therapy is possible by changing your DNA. But then if you eat a kiwi every day, it helps you recover, it helps your DNA recover, it helps you heal your... so there are multiple ways of doing the same thing. If you can use your mind to heal your body, you can also do the opposite, heal your body to heal your mind.
Okay. And do we see that actually working out for men who take therapy? I mean, I don't have the stats
People
on
who
that.
work out, people who do work out, going to the gym, find themselves staying away from toxicity, find themselves staying away from social media, not because they have a better body, but simply because they are working on themselves and looking at the result in the mirror every single day. So if you journal, if you start journaling, and whatever I feel in here, I write it down today. I write it down again tomorrow, based on how I feel about it tomorrow. And I revisit all of that at the end of the week, when I've written it for 7 times. And I see how my challenges and my problems have progressed, or how I have progressed according to my challenges. You can journal it down, compare your progress just like look in the mirror. So show yourself the mirror from time to time. If you don't measure your progress, how will you know whether you're getting better or not? So every time you do something positive, take a jar, put a rupee coin in it. Every day you meditate for 10 minutes. You put a coin in a jar. Okay? Don't look at the jar. Keep it hidden. Just keep putting the coins in. Let's say 1 year later, you have 365 rupees lying in that jar. You have not seen it from day one. But 365 days later, you're seeing there's 365 1 rupee coins. You're seeing the progress.
Okay.
So if you take care of your mental health by yourself, if you're taking action in progressing and becoming a better version of yourself, why would you need somebody else to help you?
How much of therapy, Prajwal, would you say has to do with the individual? And
It comes to the seriousness. Like I once again said, homeopathy can work if you have a simple cold. You can just tell your mind can simply tell your body, you're doing alright, and your body will accept it. But if your mind is trying to tell your mind, you're communicating with yourself and you're not able to get it. And it gets to an extreme situation where it's the loss of a loved one, or you lost a limb, or something very extreme. Or you've gone through very tough times, dark times in life where you've been betrayed, tortured, your trust has been broken, and it keeps repetitively happening. And at the same time, if you get hit by other problems, for example, financial crisis or stuff like that, if it's getting to an extreme state, then you will probably need to get some clarity and visit a therapist. Get one session. Again, that one session would be to understand the perspective, a neutral perspective of how you need to validate yourself. You need to validate your feelings for sure, but don't undervalue yourself or don't overvalue yourself. Right? You need to find a balance of frame of where you stand mentally. Once you understand it, for example, I can measure the size of my bicep when I'm going to the gym. I'm at 15 inches. Next month I get to 16 inches. After that I get to 17 inches. I decide 17 inches is good enough.
okay.
I don't need to build bigger biceps. So I then work on consistency. Similarly, you go to the therapy session once, understand your mental framework, and then work on it to keep it stable.
One criticism I have of therapy is it looks at the individual's problem through the lens of his self and his mind, and it ignores structural issues. Let's say you work in a company that makes you work 12 or 14 hours a day as opposed to 8. So any issues you have that comes from overworking is not an inherent problem I see of the individual, but of the structures that the individual is surrounded with.
Yeah.
So, do you not think that therapy or psychology, when diagnosing the problems of some person, only take into account their self?
Do you
and
want okay, do you need a therapist to tell you whether you need to jump a job?
No.
There are things you can control in life, there are things you can't control. If you are unable to find a job, if you're applying to 10 jobs a month, 100 jobs a month, you keep doing it constantly, you're not getting a job, or they're not paying you enough, so you have to stay at this job. There are things you can't control, there are uncertainties you can't control. In
Correct.
that state, it comes down to that, whether you have control or not. If you have control, then why do you need therapy? If you don't have control, then you need a person to help you go through, what you're going through. Because then if you're not able to change the condition that is causing or inflicting the problem onto you in the first place. For example, some people live with toxic parents. They can't change their parents. They can eventually move out into a new house of their own.
Okay, so let's take the example of a metaphor here, since that's one of the best ways of understanding concepts.
Yeah.
One very interesting metaphor that I coined is that you cannot clear the garbage by spraying perfume or deodorant on it.
Yeah.
So if we were to extend this metaphor to therapy, is therapy taking away the trash, or is it the art of spraying deodorant and perfume to neutralize the sting?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Therapy is about teaching you to clear that trash while it is clearing away the stench with deodorant. Okay. For example, you will see hundreds of people uploading Instagram stories saying eyes on Rafa in India. But can you really change or control anything that is happening there?
Absolutely not.
But you can clean the trash that is lying outside your apartment building. And if you keep your streets clean, you don't have to pay taxes to keep them clean.
That makes sense.
You need to think about what is happening around you first before looking outward. Look inward.
So,
Look inward. You'll know whether there is trash or not to clean in the first place, right? What if you're imagining the trash? Or if it's uncontrolled trash, like I said, something is happening somewhere in other corner of the wall. You're taking stress about it early in the morning while taking a shit, looking at Instagram in the morning. Is there a point?
No,
Clean your
absolutely
shit, go to work.
not. Literally and metaphorically, definitely. So, from where I stand with respect to this is, I see that, in my opinion, maybe Prajwal, your view on this can be different, is that the concept of mental health right now has not been fully integrated with social relations and nutrition to a great extent. And I see a new field emerging in the future where mental health, nutrition, and medicine would be one subject rather than three diverse subjects right now. Because as people, right, we are not just bodies or just minds. We are an
Exactly.
amalgamation to a certain extent. To what extent, that's debatable. But I think we need a system right now that takes into account so many factors. I think that even having different genders would mean a different tailored approach to the mental problems you face, because I'm sure the mental issues that a woman faces would not 100% overlap with those of a man. To a large extent, they wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
So, the field of psychology has a lot to improve on currently. It needs a more holistic understanding rather than an isolated understanding of the individual, and that improves things. Now, the reason we are able to communicate our thoughts despite not being certified psychologists is we want more food for thought to be on the table with respect to mental health. We understand that we are in a certain socio-economic strata,
In
and
simpler words, if you're giving your car for servicing, you would expect the oil, air conditioning, and fuel, engine, everything to get checked all at once, right?
absolutely.
It is not engine separate, air conditioning separate. Similarly, your mind and body work together. So,
Yes.
what you eat goes in your gut, and there is a microbiome, an entire cosmic entity living inside of you, your gut, that decides how to utilize the nutrition and tells your brain how to behave based on the nutrition. You eat too much sugar or you get fat, you put on 20 kgs, your body starts to smell different. So, what has smell got to do with what you eat?
A lot.
Exactly. Exactly. So your mind, your body, everything is connected.
So, guys, keep in mind that whenever you approach a problem which you think is mental, understand it holistically, understand the different dimensions or aspects of it. If you fail to do that, you'll just be changing the color of the problem. Like I would say, although I am, let's say, 30 plus now, I still feel that even though we've acquired a lot of skills, we are still the same, because there was a kid who was waiting for the Friday afternoon bell to ring, and there is an adult who can't wait to close his laptop on Friday evening when he's doing his job. So, despite acquiring so many skills, if you don't change at an identity level, no matter what you add to your persona doesn't change your existential reality. So, as I discussed this with Prajwal, simply spraying deodorant or perfume on stink does not take that away. You actually have to take that trash away. And I think a reason why most of us can't take this trash away is we are somehow drawn towards it, right? I mean, spending in the moment feels so great.
Yeah, we're drawn to negativity. And at this stage where literally every 6 seconds you're changing how you feel about something. Okay? You're looking at a stand-up video, next you're seeing a girl dance, then you're seeing a video about marketing, then you're seeing a different reel about something else, then you're seeing some other content. In under a minute, you have undergone 10 to 15 different kinds of emotions. That is creating trash in your head. You don't need to undergo so many emotions. Your 24 hours do not need 24,000 emotions. Okay, you barely need 6, maybe even less in a day.
So, guys, understand that all problems relating to mental health are not solely in the mental domain, they have to do with your life holistically. And if you want to solve one aspect of life, sometimes it will require you to understand far more other aspects of your life, and this is how you improve holistically, not just mentally but maybe physically and financially also. So make sure that anytime you approach any dimension of life, you take into account all other dimensions. So let's say if family life is important to you, it should not become so important that your career takes a back seat. And on the similar notes, if career is so important to you, it should not become so important that friends and family take a back seat. And though there is no rule book with respect to what is the ideal balance, I think the whole experience of being human is developing a certain discernment and a judgment that lets you understand what the best approach is. So that's a wrap up. Hope you enjoyed this video and do share it with other guys so that you can help them too.